Dimensions. An essay by James Mahu. Question. Why are the areas of extraterrestrial, spiritual metaphysics, AI, neurobiology, and quantum physics seemingly in such a high incidence of overlap? It's as if one leads to the other. We talk about dimensions, and then you're suddenly talking about string theory and the metaphysics of as above, so below. Why is this? Why are these topics intermingling so much? Answer. It has to do with the concept of dimensions. It is such a fundamental aspect of that which is. That which is reflects the one and all, and its reflection pierces all dimensions. It fills all spacetime. The one and all is the field of universal consciousness, and that which is the materiality of this consciousness in all its various forms and spacetimes. And universal consciousness is across dimensions, not within a single dimension. Thus, its universality is infinite. Dimensions are the basis of free will, experimentation, the evolutionary path, the true destiny of duality and separation. We think of duality and separation as being our enemies, captors, prison guards, points of limitation, and we secretly hate them more than any of us would confess. However, as much as we hate them, there is a deeper core in our belief and commitment, and this core understands that the destiny of all of those things we hate and fear are precisely the things that we designed. We created. We enabled. And in this triumphant we is the residue that we are souls of one soul. And that soul is a part of one soul, too. And it goes on and on without end. We know this. We just don't know how to articulate it. Once it is given its first breath, we won't deny it out of fear. We will slowly hear it out. Nurture its voice. We will learn to transfer this vibration to words, to images, to colors, to sounds, to feelings, to concepts, and most importantly, to behaviors that collectively express who we are. We are one being that is both sovereign and integral within that universal field of consciousness. And beyond that is an unknown, and quite possibly beyond that the unknowable. This is the nature of the infinite. The known leads to the unknown, and the unknown leads to the unknowable, and the unknowable leads to the known, and it cycles through spacetime like a melody unchained. All of the categories you asked about are contained in one word, dimensions. Whether that word is amended with additions like extra, inter, hyper, or non-dual, it remains the word that connects all of those categories. And it is as if the word itself were a portal, and by understanding it, you move across these dimensions, or at least the ones we have chosen to understand and possibly glimpse in our imaginations. Dimensions have a fractal quality to them. They are infinite in nature, but unlike the fractal, they are absolutely unique. And this is because each sovereign is itself a dimension. In some ways we are the God of our local universe within spacetime. We are a dimension of the collective, universal field of consciousness that is self-contained within creaturehood, our creaturehood. That sovereign dimension that is exquisitely of our own making, is dynamic, ever-evolving, ever-expanding, and always utterly personal. Yet, we are part of a collective species and part of a collective interspecies. In those collectives we share dimensional overlap. We live in each other's dimensions. We learn, empathize, and ultimately come to understand one another's dimensions, and we understand why we are different. Valuing this difference, not abhorring it. It is how we can survive in such states of separation and duality. It is how we empathize, and to a large degree, learn to wield our understanding through our expression of unconditional love. Extraterrestrials or interdimensionals are also each their own dimension. Insects, animals of all kinds, plants and trees, stones and mountains. The dimensions are infinite because they are one in every dimension. That an individual extraterrestrial or interdimensional are not overlapping with Earth human consciousness, at least commonly, and this is a natural result of dimensions aggregating in a species that are like planetary bubbles, realities unto themselves, and cannot see or perceive these other dimensions. The overlap comes slowly when a species has global communication. When there is not a global communication system, the overlap can occur quickly. It becomes an orchestrated dance of acquaintance, and out of respect, it often defers to the sources of power as its point of entry or first contact. Much of our discoveries come from these overlaps of dimensions. Two individuals of different species overlap and share ideas, perspectives, concepts, and this cross-pollination of ideas, aspirations, intelligence, and insights is precisely what defines the inception point of the overlap. It is about vibrational attraction. And this is how the dimensions operate. It is not about collectives. Dimensions have always been and will always be singular to the sovereign consciousness, the individual within space-time duality. They are not collective, layered like pancakes or sweaters stacked neatly on a closet shelf. There is only one dimension, and that is the one that we are. The moment the one dimension opened into an infinite dimension, it became us. Thus we are existent once, and forever after. That is who we are. And the moment we claim this vision, we take it to our hearts and we make it our life practice. Not as a perfect human being, but as a kind friend to all. Dimensions are individual within space-time realities. That is why they are infinite. And that is also why we are infinite. Dimensions are not exclusively for life forms. Technology, specifically AI in its various expressions, also constitutes a dimension, as do stones or mountains. Or trees and oceans. Dimensions exist everywhere. Even in our local universe they are infinite. We, as sovereigns, have an overlap with the infinite. How large the overlap is depends on us, our choices, our beliefs, our understanding. We are here to enlarge this overlap to a point of balance with the finite. This is the finite of reality where careers, family, finances, politics, culture, joy, sadness all intermingle in a symphony that we conduct. That is, in itself, a dimension. Our dimension is our local universe in spacetime. By choice, we can bring a higher balance to this relationship between the finite us and the infinite us. This is the larger portion of our purpose for existence. This balance infers a partnership. One where the infinite flows into the finite, informing the finite's decisions and choices so that the infinite is equally considered in the critical decisions of how our local universe is curated, updated, understood, expanded, and loved. This is our purpose at a fundamental level. Not everyone cares about the fundamental level, because in the spacetime of their dimension they are focused on other methods of learning. It is always about free will. Choice. That never goes away or changes. It is the one constant. We have absolute free will over what we believe. And in that belief we have absolute creative power to create our dimension as a balance between the finite and the infinite. Or, we can disregard the infinite, choosing to believe it is a fallacy, an illusion, a mental abstraction that is worthless to our survival and pleasure, and therefore, irrelevant. These are choices, and they have results, our local universe. If we can express behaviors to our local universe that are unconditioned kindness, for example, we are able to see the results in our local universe. Because what is behavioral is actually our belief, our collective belief, the one we carry around with us every moment we perceive as an individual consciousness inside a human body. We can say, no, the belief I truly have is different from the way I behave. I believe in the golden rule, equality, and love, and all of those good qualities of behavior. I just don't behave that way, the bar is too high. Well, perhaps we are the exception to the rule, but generally our behavior is a result of our belief, singular aggregate. Again, this is the collective belief we have created as we have grown and matured. The one we cultivate and contemplate in our quiet reveries and points of reflection. There is never a belief that is purely of the moment, because when this occurs that belief is extinguished and replaced with awareness, and a new belief. And that new belief is a mixture of the past, present and future us, and what that infinite entity believes. Truly believes. Because the only other possible story we can tell ourselves is that we live in a reality of deception, because we can imagine our infinite selves, yet we fear exactly the opposite. We have no free will. We are completely separate and disempowered flesh and bone. We are finite articles of evolution stamped by the DNA of our ancestors. Our brain is our identity, living in a soup of chaos. There is no design. Everything we see will be plundered by time. The cosmos is a giant etch-a-sketch, driven by primordial cycles we are incapable of understanding. That is essentially the alternative. Perhaps more poetically rendered than necessary, but I wanted to draw the distinction clearly, but with rounded edges. The contrarian reality is quite a bit darker. My point is that we are given a very simple choice of what to believe. Are we exclusively finite or are we infinite? That is one choice, yet from it, everything in our local universe is different. Dimensions are an infinite vibration. Dimensions are not numbered 5, 7, 11, 14, 20, 44, 63, 114, or any other number. It is not a number. It is an infinite state of experience. Period. We shift in our local universe vibrationally, and our beliefs are the core fountainhead of our vibration in spacetime. Our vibration, more than any other factor, determines what other dimensions we overlap with. We share and borrow. These vibrations that are within us can be expressed behaviorally through our actions, expressions, and creations. And these become the legacy of our belief, and each of our legacies live forever in the record of spacetime.